Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Muyeba, lifestyle psychiatrist and Reaping Woman coach. In the last 4 videos, we covered in some detail the first 4 steps of the Reap and Rise roadmap, an 8-step framework that helps professional women create intentional growth in their careers and their lives. We explored how to reflect, to envision, analyze, and plan, covering that important foundation. And today we're starting with the second half, RISE, which stands for Reset, Implement, Sustain, and Enjoy. This is where we move from reflection and planning into transformation and celebration. We will start with the first pillar, reset. What is it to reset? Well, to reset is about learning to pause with purpose, to manage stress, practice mindfulness, and cultivate self-compassion before taking your next step. What does that really mean, and why is it important? It means that you take control of your inner world before the outer world takes control of you. The problem I often see in so many professional women, including high achievers, leaders, caregivers, is that they rarely stop to breathe. And too often women are wearing multiple hats. They are running on autopilot, reacting to everything and everyone without ever pausing to check in with themselves. Now, why is checking in with ourselves important? Because when we live in constant reaction, we disconnect from our purpose and we start responding from pressure instead of peace. And the consequence is that we end up exhausted but unfulfilled. And that exhaustion leads to anxiety, overthinking, and even to physical symptoms of burnout. This results in women who are strong on the outside but feel fractured on the inside. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Well, the reset step in the Reap and Rise framework is about rooting before rising. It is about centering yourself and recovering from setbacks. And those setbacks will come. Today, we're pressing pause, not to stop, but to reset. And how do you reset, you may ask? Well, let me introduce to you the powerful method I call the ground to grow method, a 4-step process that helps you recenter yourself and recover from those setbacks with grace, strength, and intention. Because here's the truth, growth without grounding leads to burnout. And we can't rise well if we aren't first rooted deep. So let's start with the big picture. Grow in the ground to grow method stands for the G, gather. And here we gather our thoughts with intention. And the next letter, R, stands for replenish. We want to restore those energy levels through care and presence. And then we've got the O, which stands for orient. Turn your heart toward what truly matters. And lastly, the W, wait. Finally, we wait with trust because stillness is preparation, not stagnation. Now, each step builds on top of the one before it. And grow isn't about doing more, it's about doing deeper. So today we'll focus on the very first one, gather your thoughts with intention. Before you rise, you pause on purpose. And gathering your thoughts is not about just taking a break. It's reclaiming your power to choose stillness before the storm of the busyness sweeps you away. And what does that mean? It means you stop letting your thoughts run you. You gather them, you name them, and you decide which one deserves your attention. And why is it important that we do this? Because so many of us live in mental clutter. We're juggling ideas, fears, to-do lists that never end. But when you pause with intention, you shift from reaction to reflection, from the chaos to clarity. You begin to notice your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. And you can say, I don't want to think that thought or chase every task. I can choose calm. Now, why is it important that we choose calm right now? Because never has there been a time when we are faced with so many distractions and thoughts. Your thoughts often determine your direction. And if your mind is scattered, your path will likely be too. And I want you to write this down. Pausing with purpose is an act of stewardship over your mind, your time, and your energy. And before I move, I will center. Before I speak, I will seek. And that's it. Remember that every day so that you reset regularly. So how do you gather your thoughts? How do you actually do that? Let me break it into a quick 3-step memorable idea that you can practice every day. So number 1, you pause intentionally. Take a deep breath and say out loud, I am pausing on purpose. This simple statement signals to your brain that it's time to slow down and shift from the nervous system to calm awareness. And number 2, name what's present. Ask yourself, what actually is in my mind? Write down the top 3 thoughts racing through your head. And sometimes the simple act of naming them brings clarity to your mind. And number 3, choose your focus. Circle one of those thoughts that actually matters for the next hour. Let the others wait. You just gathered your thoughts, not by suppressing them, but by stewarding them. Now, what does that do? Well, it creates a space, the sacred space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you regain your peace. And who could do with some peace right now? Let me illustrate this with Brenda's experience. Brenda was a senior project manager who had just moved to a new region for work. She was talented, capable, and completely overwhelmed. She felt isolated, disconnected, and constantly anxious about proving herself in a new environment. And here's the thing that was driving this. If I slow down, I'll fall behind. And can anyone relate with that? When we worked together, Brenda discovered that the opposite was actually true. When she didn't pause, she lost focus. She made more mistakes and was easily irritated by colleagues. When she started using the ground to grow method, in particular the gather step, things began to shift. She began her mornings with 3-minute grounding routines, deep breathing, journaling 1 sentence of gratitude, and identifying her top intentions for the day. And I remember when she sent me a text. I'm actually accomplishing more, but striving less, she said. And this was happening because she was no longer reacting from fear. She was responding from focus instead. And that's the power of the gathering your thoughts with intention. So here's what you can do. Write this down. When I pause, I don't fall behind. I align. Let me say that again. When I pause, I don't fall behind. I align. And that's the truth. And that's your freedom. So let me ask you to do this. Where do you need to pause on purpose today? Is it before that big meeting? Or before sending that email? Or could it be before making that decision you've been wrestling with? Remember, the power isn't just in what you do next. It is in how intentionally you choose to be before you do. Gather your thoughts, breathe, reclaim your calm. Because the woman who can pause with purpose can rise with power. So as we close today's episode, remember, resetting isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And the ground to grow method is your guide for rooted, resilient living. And if you know it's time to pause, to reset, and perhaps to realign your life, book the Rip and Rise life audit session with me. It's your first step to gaining clarity, calm, and confidence again. And you don't have to do this alone. Let's reset together. And until next time, keep pausing on purpose and keep choosing peace before performance.